When the elevator doors open, they never reveal the same floor twice. The last tenant left 3 weeks ago, carrying cardboard boxes out through the revolving glass doors, while the security guard, half asleep, signed them off with a bored nod. Since then, the skyscraper had been an empty organ of glass and steel, a hollow lung that no one breathed through anymore. Except for David. He was a maintenance contractor hired to keep the machinery alive until the property management decided what to do with the building. Some nights he felt like a gravekeeper, polishing the headstone of a dead structure, oiling bolts for ghosts. The silence at night was a pressure on his ears, broken only by the humming of the elevator banks that still powered up and down as if waiting for orders. On the third night of his solo shift, he noticed the discrepancy. The freight elevator logged 3 runs between midnight and 2 a.m., though no one had swiped a card, no doors had opened, and no weight registered on the cabin floor sensor. He chalked it up to faulty wiring and left a note for himself. But the next evening, the same. Rides to non-existent levels, gaps in the security footage where the cab should have been. The skyscraper officially had 53 floors. The blueprints matched, the digital schematics too. But the log showed stops at levels like 54, 56, even one labeled 0. He laughed under his breath. Half creeped, half irritated bad data, nothing more. Still, he couldn't shake the itch between his ribs when the shaft cables groaned at night as though carrying weight. At 1:47 a.m. on his 5th night, he pressed the service key, slid open the access panel, and rode the freight elevator himself, flashlight clipped to his belt. The cab jerked once before moving, as if resenting the human intrusion. He watched the floor display click past 10, 20, 40, 53 then to 54. His stomach tightened. He tapped the panel. Nothing responded. When the doors opened, a narrow corridor stretched out in front of him, its carpet a faded burgundy he hadn't seen in years. The overhead lights flickered with the same weak hum as his grandmother's retirement home in Ohio. He knew that smell too, antiseptic, lemon-scented wax, and beneath it all, old cigarette smoke sunk deep into the plaster. His boots echoed as he stepped forward, throat dry. The corridor bent left, where a door with brass numbers 4B glowed in the light. His grandmother's apartment number. The door looked identical, the worn brass knob, the white paint chipped in the corner where his tricycle once knocked against it. David reached out. The knob was warm. His reflection stared back from the brass, distorted, younger, as if he were still the boy hiding behind his mother's legs. He pulled his hand back, heart hammering. "This is impossible," he whispered, though the air seemed to swallow his voice. The elevator dinged behind him. He turned. The cab was empty, doors open, light flickering. He stepped back inside, slammed the panel. The numbers ticked upward again, too fast, as though skipping floors. The next time it opened, he smelled rain-soaked asphalt and diesel. He stepped out into a half-lit subway platform, graffiti scrawled along the tiled walls. Rats squealed in the shadows. At the far end, a maintenance closet bore his initials carved in childish block letters, DW. From the summer, he and Mark had dared each other to break into the Newberry Street station. Mark, who'd slipped on the rails. Mark, who hadn't gotten back up. David staggered, heat in his chest, bile in his throat. He had buried these places in the locked drawers of his mind, yet here they were, tiled and humming, resurrected. The elevator dinged again. Back inside, the panel glowed faint red. He slammed his fists against the emergency stop, but the buttons resisted like stone. The numbers rolled down to 0. He felt the descent in his bones, a weightless drop that pressed his spine against the cab wall. When the doors opened this time, he knew before he saw. The room was too familiar. Cracked linoleum, mildew in the corners, a humming refrigerator with a door that wouldn't seal. His childhood kitchen, the same one where his father had shouted until the neighbors called the cops, where his mother had locked herself in the bathroom. A memory too sharp, too cruel to step into. On the counter sat a set of tools, the same brand and rust pattern as those in his current kit bag. A wrench gleamed, freshly wiped, out of place in this memory. He picked it up. It was warm, not metaphorically, not dream warm. Truly, freshly touched warm. His pulse spiked. The sound of footsteps clicked behind him. Not from the hallway, from inside the apartment. He turned, flashlight beam quivering across peeling wallpaper. A shadow shifted at the far end, tall and bent, pausing as though waiting for him to advance. He staggered back into the cab, wrench still clutched, the doors closed. Back inside the elevator, his reflection in the steel doors trembled. For a split second, the reflection didn't mimic him. His mouth hung open while his real lips stayed shut. Eyes blacker, teeth clenched. Then the image snapped back. David pressed his palms to his temples. It's stress, it's stress. The elevator dropped again. The cab opened on a floor he recognized instantly, though he wished he didn't. A hospital corridor, sterile, echoing with faint alarms. His chest constricted. The end room 313, where his sister lay pale under white sheets, 4 dripping slowly. He hadn't come back that night. He had told himself he was too tired, that she would be fine until morning. She hadn't made it to morning. But inside the cab, he wasn't alone now. He caught movement in the mirrored panel. A man stood in the corner, shoulders hunched, face obscured by shadow. David spun nothing there. But in the reflection, the man leaned closer, mouth forming words. The elevator lurched hard as though the cables had snapped. David fell to his knees, wrench clattering across the floor. The display sputtered, numbers collapsing into gibberish symbols, then steadied on 3. The doors opened to pure darkness. Not absence of light, but the kind that swallowed his beam whole. He crawled forward, palm against cold cement. The door closed behind him. A faint light blinked to life ahead, a service desk scattered with paperwork. He lifted a folder, his name typed neatly on the tab. Inside, logs of every elevator maintenance he'd ever done, each annotated in handwriting that was almost his own, but not quite, as if written by his left hand. At the bottom of each page, malfunction traced to operator error, recommend replacement. Behind him, the elevator dinged one last time. The cab stood waiting, but this time, through the open doors, he didn't see the cab interior. He saw himself, standing inside, expression calm, eyes steady, wrench resting loose in his grip. His double smiled faintly, as though relieved. We've been waiting. David stumbled back, throat raw. The other hem stepped forward, boots echoing on the concrete, the cab's light shrinking as the doors began to close. And only then did David realize the elevator had never been moving at all. It was him. He was the mechanism, the one carrying the weight. Every floor, every memory, every loss, each a level in a shaft dug through his own mind. The building wasn't empty. He was. The doors slammed shut, leaving him in the dark, with only the echo of the cables groaning, forever descending.